Primes or zooms? What do you think, man?
Dude, primes all the way. There's no way I'm ever going to go back to shooting a zoom. Even once in my lifetime, I'm on primes. I think just shooting super lightweight, going for a lightweight prime and a lightweight mirrorless camera, you cannot do wrong with that setup nowadays.
I agree, man. I own absolutely zero zoom lenses, but I have owned them in the past, and usually almost every kit I have a few of them. Just right now, I'm just going all primes, and I feel totally fine with that. I don't.
I've shot a 70 to 200 because the internet or just people on the internet said that you cannot shoot a wedding without a 70 to 200. And I think the first
hundreds of them without it. Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, it's kind of a old way of thinking. I think
yeah, that lens has been so stigmatized by photographers as the event lens.
Yeah, that 70 to 200 big white Canon one or whatever. But yeah, so I thought I needed it, and I went into a wedding and I shot it, and I just felt like I was not engaged at all because I was standing there. I wasn't like getting into the photos as much. I wasn't going around and kind of zooming with my
keeps you
feet.
Locked up to a spot. You're like, I'm just gonna stand here. I'm out of the way. I'm gonna zoom way in and get a shot and zoom out.
Yeah,
and that does give you that is one thing that a zoom lens might give you that you might not get out of a prime lens is you can get a lot of shots without moving too much. So sometimes in the church it's advantageous, but I feel like I'd rather have a couple fast primes knowing that later I'm not going to have to switch out all my gear because later in the night first of all when I'm doing the portrait session I want to have the shallow depth of field, and when I'm doing the low light stuff and the reception and stuff I just need the faster glass. So switching out lenses is just kind of a pain.
For sure. I can never see myself carrying around one of those big white 70 to 200s. I mean,
that thing's intimidating to your subjects too, especially if they're regular people. They're like, "Why are you pointing that giant thing at me?" Not that the 135 is a lot smaller, although on the Fuji kit it is, but it's not nearly as intimidating as that big zoom lens. But even if you were using the smaller lens, the 24 to 70, there's a lot of times where you would screw up because you'd be like, all right, I'm going to zoom into 35. I'm going to go stand here because I think that's the right spot. And then you wouldn't get the picture you would want.
There's also something to knowing what focal length compressions that you like. So I know that I really like the compression of 85. And if you're zooming just kind of back and forth, it takes a lot of I guess technique and more thinking to shoot this big zoom lens within the focal length at the compression that you want. So you're shooting a 24 to 70 and you're just going to kind of stop randomly because you're going to be framing the photo differently, and so every compression
might look different. And then you might go from one photo to the next and notice some more distorted looking and it's just going to come off a little weird. I'd much rather shoot primes in another way because if I'm shooting a prime and I got a 35 on my camera, I just know where to stand. I know where I need to be. If I have an 85, I don't think twice. I know what my framing is going to be because you use it so much that you just get so comfortable with that one lens that you're just this is where I need to be to get this photo. This is where I need to be to get that photo. And
I've never shot a zoom and been happy with my images either. I just know
want a little more.
Yeah, a little bit more depth of field, a little bit more.
The 7200 is pretty good. If you're outside in pretty good light, you can make some pretty good shots with it, but it's still not quite the same.
I feel like it's a good headshot lens, but that's
because you can get a little closer with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Oftentimes.
that Canon 200 is a little bit old, and then the 7200 is a little bit newer. So if you're shooting compressed headshots or something, then it's nice. But I think if you're a wildlife or sports photographer, it's kind of a necessity. So
yeah, if you're chasing something around with your camera, you're gonna need the zoom ability sometimes. Sometimes stuff's just far away.
But yeah, if you're just an artist or a portrait photographer, event photographer, you can get away with primes easy. And it's a misconception that you have to have a zoom in your kit, which is something I wish I would have heard when I was starting out. So.
Yeah, you don't need zooms. You just need to either be able to change lenses fast or be aware of what's coming. So if I'm standing in a spot and I got one, usually I'll take two cameras with two lenses. But if I only have one camera and I have two lenses, I know if I'm going to pre-frame the shot before whatever happens.
And you had to think about which focal length you wanted the shot to be at.
Right, exactly. So if I wanted to make the shot, I'm going to probably do it at 35. You're going to stand there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into those places before it actually happens. So it gets me thinking a couple of steps ahead of where I would have thought if I just had the zoom.
Yeah. I feel like for anything like any live event, like a wedding or whatever, if you if you think about everything that you're doing kind of one step ahead, then your photos are always going to turn out better. And by using primes, a lot of times you just kind of have to think that way. You can't get too lazy. So that's something I love about
Keeps
primes.
you on your toes all the time.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, this was photo footage about shooting primes and not zooms.
Yeah, shoot primes.
All right.